Life unfolds as a tapestry of choices, chances, and challenges, threads that weave together to form the story of who we are and who we can become. Learning to keep our emotions in check, to remain cold when the moment calls for it, and to cultivate the power of silence are lessons as vital as breathing. When you grasp the importance of measuring your words and controlling your impulses, you protect your self-respect, preserve your dignity, and prepare yourself to shine when real opportunities arise. Far too often, we chase responses, approval, or validation from others, repeatedly sending texts to someone who hasn't responded, hoping to provoke a reply that might never come. Each time we press send without restraint, we risk wasting precious time and inadvertently allowing our sense of self-worth to depend on another person's willingness to reply. Self-respect, once tarnished, does not mend itself easily. Instead of lingering in that uncertain space, waiting for a response, we can rise above, choose to stop sending messages into the void, and direct our energy toward the things we need, goals, passions, and pursuits that resonate with our values. By doing so, we reinforce the truth that if something truly matters, we owe it to ourselves to act boldly rather than wait for someone else's nod of approval. This principle, self-initiative, is a compass guiding us to seek what we deserve rather than hoping it will fall into our laps. Imagine the difference between standing on a platform, waiting for a train that may or may not appear, versus stepping onto the tracks and building your path forward. When you commit to finding what you need on your own, whether it's information, connection, or guidance, you honor your agency. Instead of watching life pass by from the sidelines, you immerse yourself as an active participant. This mindset shift, from passivity to proactivity, does more than help you chase down goals. It instills a sense of personal sovereignty. You wake each morning with the knowledge that your fate is not tethered to someone's whim or chance, but is instead firmly in your own hands. And that confidence, knowing you can chart your course, offers a profound sense of fulfillment. Because success and satisfaction rarely belong to those who stand frozen, staring at a blank screen or an unfilled inbox. They belong to those who, undeterred by silence, forge ahead, taking one deliberate step at a time. Embracing solitude is not a sign of defeat, but an invitation to cultivate an unshakable foundation of self-awareness. If you find yourself without companionship, whether by circumstance or choice, treat that solitude not as an empty void, but as fertile ground for self-discovery. Instead of dwelling on loneliness, engage in activities that nurture your spirit. Listen to music that resonates with your inner rhythms. Lose yourself in a gripping novel that transports you to another world. Immerse yourself in a video game that challenges your mind, or dive into a film that stirs dormant emotions. If writing is your solace, start a journal or a blog. Let your thoughts flow freely onto the page. Through these pursuits, you'll nurture a deeper connection to yourself, exploring what excites you, what calms you, and what drives you. Solitude need not be equated with isolation or despair. It can be a sanctuary where you become your own best friend, confidant, and supporter. Alone, you find peace you cannot discover in the noise of the crowd. Alone, you learn to cradle yourself with love and compassion, the very care no one else can provide on your behalf. Each moment of solitude becomes an oasis of calm, allowing your mind to wander, reflect, and ultimately grow. As you become comfortable in your presence, you'll notice a quiet transformation. You become stronger, more independent, and infinitely more confident. Because in the silence, where the world's chatter fades to a whisper, you begin to hear your own heart, its yearnings, its fears, and its boundless potential. Yet in every life, there are moments when sorrow strikes unexpectedly, piercing our hearts with grief or frustration. During those times, it's natural to feel overwhelmed, as though the weight of the world rests on your shoulders. When pain overwhelms you, whether from heartbreak, disappointment, or loss, do not deny your tears. Find a place where you can be alone with your emotions and let the tears flow freely. Crying is not a sign of weakness. It is a deeply human act of release, a cleansing ritual that allows your heart to vent its anguish. Each teardrop carries away a bit of sorrow, leaving space for healing to begin. However, while tears are powerful, they serve a purpose only if they are coupled with action afterward. Once you have allowed yourself to cry, muster the courage to stand up, recompose yourself, and step back into the world with a genuine smile. Do not allow your tears to become an excuse to linger in despair. Do not cry for the sake of sympathy or to elicit pity. Pity is hollow and fleeting, offering no true strength or liberation. Instead, cry to heal, clear the fog from your vision, and then rise with your chin held high. By doing so, you affirm your resilience, that despite the pain, you can recover, re-engage with life, and find joy once again. Each time you rise after the tears, you reinforce a powerful truth. You are not defined by your suffering. Rather, you are defined by your response to it. By choosing to shed your tears and then stand back up, you demonstrate to yourself and to anyone watching that you refuse to be defeated by adversity. Over time, these repeated acts of emotional clearing and subsequent renewal forge a spirit that is both tender and unbreakable. Your tears become the fuel for your courage. Once drained, you have less burden and more room to cultivate hope. This cycle, crying, healing, rising, teaches an indispensable lesson. Pain is temporary, but resilience is enduring. And when you embrace that lesson, no challenge, no matter how daunting, can hold you captive for long. Life is seldom a straight, predictable path. Occasionally, you will encounter obstacles that seem insurmountable. Perhaps a person who drags you down with doubt, a job that stifles your creativity, or a situation that demands more energy and effort than you can sustain. When you feel that something or someone is slowing your momentum, it is not a sign of failure to quietly change course. Instead, it is a testament to your wisdom and strength. Life's journey calls for constant motion, growth, and evolution. If you remain tethered to people whose values diverge from yours, or to situations that drain rather than uplift, you risk stagnation. Recognize when certain relationships, mindsets, or circumstances no longer serve you and have the courage to pivot. By gently stepping away, without anger or bitterness, you preserve your energy and leave space for new paths to emerge. Remember that not everyone is meant to travel alongside you for the entirety of your trip. People's priorities, dreams, and personal growth fluctuate. What initially seemed like a perfect alignment may eventually feel constraining. When that happens, grant yourself permission to move beyond, to explore fresh routes and fresh vistas that better align with who you are becoming. Decisiveness is a compass in this process. Hesitation allows obstacles to entrench themselves more deeply, making it harder to break free later on. When your instincts whisper that a relationship or situation is no longer beneficial, listen. Perhaps the friendship once thrived, but now breeds gossip and negativity. Or maybe the job once felt fulfilling, but now stifles your creativity and saps your energy. Maybe a habit that once seemed harmless has gradually morphed into an unhealthy crutch. Whatever it may be, honor your intuition and make the change. This kind of pivot is not a sign of defeat or selfishness. It is a simple recognition of reality and a refusal to let negative influences shape your destiny. Through this decisiveness, you demonstrate self-respect and craft a trajectory that fosters growth and opportunity instead of one mired in frustration. Self-inflicted harm does not always manifest in physical scars. Often, our harshest enemy is our own inner critic, the voice that tells us we are inadequate, that we will never measure up, or that we are fundamentally unworthy of love and success. When you allow that negative self-talk to take root, you build barriers that stifle your confidence and crush your self-esteem. This, in turn, makes you vulnerable to external negativity, harsh comments from others, unfair comparisons, and the sting of rejection. To break this cycle, you must cultivate a mental shield, an unyielding conviction that your worth is not negotiable. When someone attempts to diminish you through criticism or belittlement, you stand firm in the knowledge of your intrinsic value. You remind yourself that your worth is not defined by fleeting opinions or circumstances. Practice daily affirmations, focus on your strengths, and treat yourself with the kindness and respect you would offer to someone you deeply care for. By doing this, you fortify your inner fortress. Harsh words, whether spoken by others or uttered in your mind, lose their power to harm you. In time, you will find that no external force can shake the core of who you are, because you have risen above self-doubt and embraced self-compassion. True resilience begins with self-love and self-respect. When you hold yourself in high esteem, you refuse to let anyone or anything erode your confidence. You see difficulties as challenges that sharpen your skills rather than as reflections of your worth. You know that while you cannot always control outside events, you can control your response to them. This is not mere lip service. It requires constant vigilance and intentional practice. Each time you confront a negative thought, I'm not good enough, I'll never succeed, they don't care about me, you counter it with a positive, empowering truth. I am capable. I am learning and growing. I am deserving of love and respect. Over time, these truths become second nature. Like a muscle that grows stronger with each workout, your sense of self-worth becomes indomitable. And from that place of security, you can face life's storms head-on, unwavering in the knowledge that no gust of criticism, no wave of doubt can wash away your sense of value. Navigating emotional turbulence alone can quickly become suffocating. When sadness, anxiety, or despair weigh heavily on your heart, reach out. Find a friend, family member, mentor, or counselor you trust, someone who will listen without judgment and offer empathy rather than a quick fix. Bottling up pain may seem like a temporary solution, but over time it accumulates like debris clogging a river until the pressure becomes unbearable. Sharing your burdens allows you to release that pressure valve. Vulnerability does not equate to weakness. It is an act of courage, a testament to the fact that you recognize your needs and are willing to let others in. Through honest conversation, you receive not only sympathies, but also perspectives you might not have considered, practical advice for coping, and the profound reassurance that you are not alone in your struggles. That sense of solidarity, knowing someone else truly hears you, can lighten the heaviness in your chest and remind you that support is available if you choose to seek it. Moreover, opening up about your pain often deepens your relationships. When you share your authentic self, you invite others to connect on a level that transcends small talk and superficial pleasantries. You create a safe space for them to bring their own vulnerabilities forward, establishing a cycle of empathy and mutual support. These bonds can be lifelines during dark times. When the night feels long and the path seems uncertain, having someone who believes in you can make all the difference. Leaning on others when you need help is not settling for less. It is calling on the strength of community, a reminder that while we may be solitary travelers in many respects, we are never truly alone in the human experience. Matters of the heart demand their own brand of bravery. If you find yourself crushed by affection for someone, summon the courage to speak your truth rather than burying your feelings beneath layers of fear and pretense. Love that remains unspoken lingers like a ghost in the corners of your thoughts, whispering "what if?" until it drives you mad with uncertainty. It is far less painful to lay your genuine feelings on the line than to endure the interminable tension of silence. The sting of rejection cuts sharply at first, but fades with time. The agony of unvoiced love, in contrast, can haunt you indefinitely. By bravely declaring your intentions and accepting whatever response follows, you confer upon yourself agency. You refuse to let the fickle winds of chance determine your fate. Even if the other person does not reciprocate, you have given yourself a gift. The clarity that comes from ending every hypothetical with a definitive answer. You are free to move forward, free from the chain of endless doubt. And if the affection is returned, that bravery paves the way for genuine connection, free from pretense or ambiguity. In love, as in many realms of life, honesty is a conduit for strength, not vulnerability. When you speak your heart, you claim your power to influence your own story. Equally important is resisting the urge to chase after a relationship simply to stave off loneliness. Many people, starved for companionship, will latch onto the nearest prospect, never pausing to consider whether that person is truly right for them. In this desperation, they mistake proximity for compatibility, choosing to fill a void rather than to connect with someone who truly understands them. The outcome is almost always heartbreak. A match forged in desperation is unstable, prone to collapse under the first gust of doubt. Instead, embrace the solitude and the journey of self-discovery that precedes a healthy partnership. Take the time to explore your interests, devote energy to your passions, and cultivate friendships, especially those that nurture your growth rather than drain your spirit. Learn to find joy in your own company. When you finally do meet someone who resonates with your authentic self, you'll be ready to offer a love that is whole, stable, and enduring. True companionship does not banish loneliness, it amplifies joy, but only if both hearts are equally ready to embrace it. A partner chosen hastily to fill a void only deepens isolation in the long run. The remedy is not external, it is internal, rooted in the knowledge that your worth does not depend on being in a relationship. You stand complete as you are, so when you do love, it is because you choose to share your fullness, not because you seek a lifeline. Birthdays, in this context, hold a special kind of magic. They are not merely calendar milestones, they are commemorations of life's profound journey, reminders of the passage of time, and moments of gratitude. When you remember a loved one's birthday, especially your mother's or your own, you honor the tremendous gift of existence. Your birthday is the day you emerged into this world, and it marks the culmination of your mother's sacrifices and dreams. On that day, express your appreciation. Give your mother a thoughtful gift, spend quality time together, or simply convey heartfelt words of gratitude. These gestures transcend any monetary value. They communicate to her that you see, you remember, and you cherish the pain she endured to bring you into being. Each birthday is also an opportunity for personal reflection. As you observe another year passing, take time to assess your journey. What challenges did you overcome? Which goals did you achieve? What lessons did you learn? Use these reflections not to dwell on regrets, but to chart a path for the year ahead. Should you resolve to deepen your mindfulness practice? To read more books? To reach out to estranged family members? Each of these aspirations can transform a simple birthday into a pivotal moment of growth. By treating birthdays as more than parties and gifts, you weave gratitude and introspection into the very fabric of your life's narrative, reinforcing the bonds of love with those who matter most. In those moments when the burdens of life weigh heavily upon you, overwhelming you with stress, sadness, or frustration, resist the temptation to resort to poor choices or reckless escapism. Rather than acting on impulse or drowning your sorrows in destructive habits, choose the restorative power of sleep. Sleep is Mother Nature's own medicine. When you allow your mind and body to rest, you give your nervous system a chance to reset. Cortisol levels drop, stress hormones subside, and your brain rebalances neurotransmitters. Waking after a solid night's sleep can feel like emerging from a fog with fresh clarity and a revived spirit. Sometimes a short nap in the afternoon is enough to break the cycle of relentless anxiety. Other times, a full night's rest is required to recharge your creativity and motivation. Recognize that sleep is not a luxury, but an essential component of mental health. When you feel tempted to do something crazy in the throes of distress, resist that urge. Instead, close your eyes, surrender to the blackness behind your closed eyelids, and allow sleep to weave its restorative tapestry around you. When you open your eyes again, you will likely discover that your problems appear smaller, your energy more abundant, and your resilience restored. Sleep can be a powerful ally, one that costs nothing and yet returns incalculable benefits to your mind, body, and soul. Equally crucial is the practice of trusting your own feelings. So often we ask others, "Do you remember me?" or "Do you love me?" as though their words are the only evidence of their sentiments. But true feelings cannot be measured by spoken statements alone. Love, affection, and authenticity exist in currents of emotion, fleeting glances, gentle gestures, and the unspoken understanding that arises when two souls resonate. If you must continually demand confirmation, it signals insecurity rather than safety. Instead, nurture your intuition. Pay attention to how someone's presence makes you feel. Are you relaxed in their company? Do their actions align with their words? Trusting these subtle cues often leads to a more authentic understanding of relationships. When you rely on your own emotional barometer, you refuse to be held captive by an endless search for reassurance. This isn't to say that honest communication isn't important. On the contrary, open dialogue fosters genuine connection. But do not mistake every slight uncertainty for a crisis requiring vocal declarations. Real love and trust are experienced in the quiet harmony of shared understanding, not in repeated verbal validation. So believe in your feelings, honor your instincts, and observe how people treat you. When your inner sense of truth aligns with their behaviors and words, you have a strong foundation for a lasting bond. In this same vein, it is vital not to overemphasize trivial matters. The world is replete with distractions, small irritations, petty grievances, and minor inconveniences that threaten to clutter our minds. If you fixate on every slight inconvenience, you will become mired in unnecessary worry and frustration. Instead, cultivate the art of letting go. Recognize when something is too small to warrant your emotional bandwidth. For instance, someone cutting you off in traffic, a delayed response to an email, or a momentary lapse in a friend's attention. All these instances can spark irritation. But is it truly worth letting your peace of mind be hijacked for a fleeting annoyance? Probably not. When you learn to release minor irritants, much like water flowing over a pebble, you preserve your energy for situations that genuinely matter. By refusing to blow small matters out of proportion, you maintain mental clarity and emotional equilibrium. In doing so, you also demonstrate adaptability. Life will always present challenges big and small. Your ability to prioritize and to let go determines how effectively you navigate those challenges. Thus, by practicing detachment from petty aggravations, you free yourself to focus on what truly enriches your life: relationships that matter, goals that inspire, and experiences that nourish your soul. On the flip side of detachment lies a welcoming embrace of occasional foolishness. Nobody can perform at peak competence 24/7. Sometimes, a touch of silliness, a moment of playfulness, or an admission of, "I'm being kind of stupid right now," can do wonders for lowering stress and deepening bonds with others. Think back to times when you have laughed until your sides hurt with friends, imitating ridiculous accents or inventing absurd games. Those moments of letting your guard down are not embarrassments to be erased, but highlights to be honored. Foolishness is not synonymous with ignorance. Rather, it is a deliberate permission to indulge in lightheartedness. It is the antidote to the seriousness that can stifle our creativity and dampen our spirits. When you allow yourself to be a little foolish, momentarily suspending the pressure to be perfect, you invite joy, spontaneity, and genuine connection. People are drawn to authenticity, and part of that authenticity is admitting, "I don't have it all figured out, and sometimes I'm downright goofy." So next time you feel the weight of the world pressing on your shoulders, give yourself permission to be silly. Release the need to impress. Embrace the childlike freedom to laugh wholeheartedly. You might be surprised at how lighthearted fun refreshes your perspective and lifts your mood. A cornerstone of emotional intelligence, and indeed of any thriving community, is the refusal to speak ill of others. Gossip, whining, or demeaning remarks may feel like a quick release valve for frustration, but in reality, they erode trust and corrode relationships. Every time you speak harshly about someone behind their back, you chip away at your own integrity and invite suspicion into your interactions. Instead, make a commitment to speak well of others, or, if you must critique, focus only on those whose opinions deeply matter to you, and do so constructively. Remember that words wield immense power. A single careless phrase can wound someone's confidence or shatter their sense of belonging. On the other hand, your kind, thoughtful words can uplift, encourage, and strengthen the bonds you share with those around you. Use your voice to build, not to destroy, to unite, not to divide. By doing so, you create an atmosphere of respect and kindness that fosters trust and goodwill. The more you uphold this principle, the more you'll find people drawn to your presence, knowing that you are a person who respects them rather than one who seeks to tear them down. As you navigate life's winding roads, keep your mind as fluid as a river, unbound by rigid constraints. Many people trap themselves within mental cages. Beliefs like, "I can't learn new skills because I'm too old," or "I'm not creative enough to start that project." These self-imposed barriers limit potential and stunt personal growth. But creativity and innovation thrive when we allow our thoughts to roam freely, challenging assumptions and embracing new perspectives. Picture your mind not as a fortress, but as a well-tended garden where ideas sprout, wither, and make way for new growth. When you nurture this kind of mental freedom, you become open to unconventional solutions and serendipitous discoveries. For example, consider the story of Thomas Edison. He famously said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. Edison's mind was not shackled by each unsuccessful experiment. Instead, his mind flowed freely from failure to failure until it arrived at success. You too can cultivate that spirit of exploration. Begin with simple steps. Question the assumptions you hold. Read books outside your comfort zone. Engage with people whose backgrounds and viewpoints differ from your own. And experiment with hobbies that challenge your usual way of thinking. The moment you loosen those mental shackles, you invite growth, creativity, and fulfillment into your life, resulting not only in new ideas, but in an ongoing sense of wonder and joy. In the same way, embrace friendships that cross gender lines. A friend of the opposite sex can offer unique insights that differ from your same gender peers. These friendships broaden your perspective, making you more empathetic and socially agile. In a world often narrowly defined by gender stereotypes, a platonic friendship with someone of a different gender can shatter misconceptions and reveal new ways of seeing the world. Through these relationships, you learn to communicate more clearly, to understand emotional nuances, and to appreciate the rich diversity of human experience. Perhaps a female friend helps you recognize the subtleties of emotional expression, or a male friend shows you a different approach to problem solving. These connections can also help you develop healthier romantic relationships in the future. By understanding how to relate respectfully and empathetically to someone of the opposite sex, you become more attuned to the complexities of all interpersonal bonds. Nurture these friendships. Value them not as preludes to romance, but as opportunities for personal growth and deeper human connection. By doing so, you cultivate social intelligence, empathy, and a richer tapestry of friendships that will support you through the peaks and valleys of life. While forging new connections is essential, so too is the careful stewardship of your speech. Think before you speak, but don't let that caution paralyze you. Reflection fosters courtesy, reducing misunderstandings and preventing needless conflict. When you pause to consider your words, you demonstrate maturity and emotional insight. Instead of blurting out the first thought that emerges, take a moment to weigh the potential impact of your words. In practice, this might look like taking a deep breath before responding to someone's criticism, choosing written words carefully before hitting send on an email, or simply giving yourself a second to reframe a complaint more constructively. At the same time, avoid overthinking to the point where you become inarticulate or avoid sharing necessary truths. The art is to strike a balance. Speak with honesty but with kindness. Communicate with clarity but with empathy. Remember, silence can sometimes be the wisest response. If what you have to say does not add value to the conversation, or if it risks inflicting needless harm, allow the silence to speak for you. This mindful practice builds a reputation for thoughtfulness and integrity. People will come to trust that when you speak, it is because your words matter. And that is a powerful form of respect to cultivate. When it comes to personal transformation, loud proclamations and grand announcements often fall short compared to quiet, consistent action. Change spoken at a podium or posted across social media can sound impressive, but if your behaviors do not align, the transformation remains hollow. Instead, let your overnight metamorphosis happen silently. Let your old habits slip away in the background while your new ones take root. When others notice you waking up earlier, exercising regularly, or pursuing a new skill without you having announced it to the world, they will witness a change that is authentic and sustainable. In contrast, announced changes, while initially celebrated, can unravel when the novelty wears off and the motivation wanes. Quiet change, however, relies not on applause but on personal commitment. It allows you to focus fully on the incremental steps, seeing them as goals in themselves rather than as spectacles to impress others. Over time, the steady accumulation of small, positive adjustments burst into full bloom. By the time others become aware, your transformation is already well underway, supported by countless private decisions and unseen efforts. This silent method of changing also fosters humility. It reminds you that progress is about substance, not fanfare. When you genuinely alter your habits, whether it's improved study routines, healthier eating, or more intentional communication, you don't need external validation to confirm your success. Your results speak for themselves. Of course, no matter how quietly you change, life will present disputes and misunderstandings with coworkers, friends, or family members. When conflict arises, meet it head on, ideally within 24 hours. Allowing friction to linger only drives a wedge deeper between people, filling the cracks with assumptions and resentment. Instead, strive to address any hurt feelings or disagreements swiftly. A sincere apology is not an admission of total defeat. Rather, it is a recognition of shared humanity and a willingness to preserve relationships. In a workplace, for example, if you mistakenly pass off a colleague's suggestion as your own, the sooner you acknowledge the oversight, the sooner trust can be restored. In a friendship, if a thoughtless comment causes pain, apologize and clarify your intentions before that small rupture turns into a chasm. Rapid resolution signals emotional maturity and respect, values that encourage lasting connections. Sometimes swift conflict resolution means simply reaching out to listen and empathize. Other times, it may require compromise or follow-up discussions. The mechanism doesn't matter as much as the timeline is. When you handle these challenges quickly and with genuine concern, you prevent miscommunications from snowballing and preserve the bonds that matter most. The peace of mind you gain from resolving disputes promptly is well worth the discomfort of initiating a difficult conversation. It keeps relationships healthy, vibrant, and capable of weathering future storms. Failures, too, demand an immediate and honest response, but of a different kind. When you fall short of a goal or make a misstep, resist the temptation to blame external circumstances. It is tempting to say, the market crashed, so my business idea failed, or my teammates didn't support me, so we lost the game. While external factors can influence outcomes, the ultimate responsibility lies with your own actions and decisions. Countless successful entrepreneurs, athletes, and artists have turned ostensurmountable failures into stepping stones for future success. The key difference lies in their willingness to own their part in the outcome, learn from their mistakes, and pivot accordingly. When you refuse to scapegoat your environment, you reclaim the power to shape your destiny. If a project falters, ask yourself, what could I have done differently? Where did I miscalculate? Who could have been an asset whom I overlooked? By diagnosing the real causes, whether they lie in planning, execution, or mindset, you unlock the knowledge needed to improve. This mindset of accountability and adaptability propels you forward rather than letting you languish in a victim mentality. Over time, the act of owning your shortcomings and extracting lessons from them cultivates flexibility and grit. You become someone who sees each setback not as a dead end, but as a detour on the path to greater achievement. Above all, one guiding truth stands paramount: love yourself fiercely. It is said that the only birthday worse than one with no gifts is the one you completely forget. But the real tragedy is forgetting to celebrate yourself altogether. Self-love is not vanity. It is the foundation on which your entire life rests. When you honor your own values, you stand in a space of self-respect that radiates outward. If no one else remembers your birthday, let your own remembrance suffice. Put aside the notion that happiness must come from someone else's hands. Take time to indulge in what brings you joy, whether it is treating yourself to a favorite meal, taking a long walk in a favorite park, or simply pausing to reflect on your journey and express gratitude for your resilience. By internalizing the message that you are worthy of love and care, you strengthen your emotional armor against the slings and arrows of external judgment. Self-love becomes a wellspring from which all other love flows more abundantly. When you decide to honor yourself first, celebrating your achievements, forgiving your mistakes, and tending to your needs, you set a standard for how you expect to be treated by others. People instinctively treat with kindness those who treat themselves kindly. Hence, by loving yourself unapologetically, you invite the world to do the same. Embedded within this principle is the idea of treating your body, mind, and spirit as sacred. When you practice self-love, you carve out time for exercise, wholesome food, restful sleep, and restorative hobbies. You guard your heart from toxic relationships and toxic thoughts. You cultivate a circle of influence that uplifts rather than drains you. In this environment of self-respect, you grow roots of confidence that anchor you in the face of life's storms. You build a life that does not rely on anyone else's fleeting affections. Instead, you become a stable presence, a magnet for joy, and a wellspring of encouragement for those around you. Self-love, then, is not egocentricity. It is the antidote to the self-doubt that paralyzes and the self-neglect that torments. It is the water and sunlight that help your spirit blossom to its fullest potential. Throughout all these lessons, guarding your heart, embracing solitude, respecting your tears, pivoting away from negativity, building self-esteem, seeking support, speaking your truth in love, resisting desperate relationships, honoring birthdays, cherishing sleep, trusting your feelings, letting go of trivialities, permitting occasional silliness, speaking kindly, freeing your mind, valuing friendships across gender lines, choosing words carefully, transforming quietly, resolving conflicts swiftly, owning your failures, and above all, loving yourself. You will notice a common thread. Each principle revolves around a choice to honor your well-being over temporary comfort, to protect your dignity over seeking fleeting approval, and to invest in lasting growth over short-lived satisfaction. Life does not wait. The hours pass, the seasons change, and the world turns on, indifferent to our plans and feelings. In the grand symphony of existence, your part is to play with conscious intention, to imprint your unique voice on the world through the accumulation of deliberate acts. When you learn to hold still in silence when you must, speak with integrity when you should, and pivot with grace when the path divides, you awaken to a form of freedom that is both rare and profound. That freedom is the sum of your choices that safeguard your dignity when others seek to diminish it, that honor your inner voice when the world demands constant noise, and that celebrate your worth when external recognition isn't forthcoming. Each day, you compose your life's melody, bar by bar, note by note. Though you cannot control every chord or every crescendo, you can decide how your instrument sounds, whether it stays in tune, and whether it resonates with authenticity. And in that process, you discover the most extraordinary truth. While life hands out the cards, you hold the power to play them with dignity, grace, and unshakable self-love. In doing so, you not only transform your own journey, but also leave behind echoes of inspiration for everyone privileged enough to witness your masterpiece.